Hey guys, tonight I want to tell you something that's been sitting in my chest for years. It starts with a slice of slightly burnt toast and a glass of orange juice that tasted vaguely like regret. I was 19, wearing a hoodie with the college logo of a place I hadn't even visited yet, and stuffing the last of my belongings into boxes that still smelled like the garage. My father sat at the other end of the kitchen table, in his usual spot, flipping through a newspaper he didn't really read. The TV was on in the background, a news anchor mumbling something about gas prices. We didn't say much, but every second was loud in its own way. He had made breakfast. That in itself was strange. Eggs, toast, no butter, just like he used to make when Mom still lived with us. He didn't offer a speech or a "we're proud of you" kid moment. He just slid the plate toward me, cleared his throat, and said, "Eat something." So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. I always love seeing that. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let me take you into the heart of it all. I'm Michael. I'm 46 now, a high school teacher. Though I used to sell used cars before I realized I couldn't keep lying about timing belts to single moms. This story's about my dad, Tom. He was a machinist for 30 years, had forearms like bricks, and thought therapy was just something people in TV dramas did between drinking too much and getting divorced. We didn't talk about emotions. We organized them into shelves, like his tools in the garage, and we only opened them if something broke. That morning, nothing looked broken, but I could tell something had been quietly cracking between us for a while, probably since the divorce, maybe longer. The way he buttered his toast like it was a chore. The way he kept glancing at my packed boxes in the living room like they were ticking. He asked if I had everything. I nodded. Then I asked if he was okay. He nodded. Two men, nodding our way around an emotional conversation we had no blueprint for. There was a moment right before I stood up to start loading the truck when he looked like he might say something else. His mouth opened slightly, then closed again. He tapped the side of his mug, then took a sip. I remember this because he always did that when he was nervous. He did it at Mom's funeral. He did it when I told him I'd picked English Lit as my major. And he did it that morning, right before we lifted the first box. The toast was cold by then. I ate it anyway. Our kitchen had this weird overhead light that flickered every time the microwave ran. It was running then. He was warming up leftover coffee. I asked why he didn't just make a fresh pot. He said, "No point. It's just me now." That sentence had hit me in a strange way. I was leaving, yes. But he'd already been left once. Twice. Technically. If you count how emotionally distant I'd been those last few years. He didn't say it with guilt. More like resignation. Like someone who's finally realized that some things don't come back once they go. He handed me the coffee he'd just microwaved, said, "Take this for the road. It's not great, but it's hot." We both smiled, and that was maybe the first real smile we'd shared in months. The house smelled like old newspapers and WD-40, with a hint of that weird citrusy cleaning spray he used on everything. That's the scent I still associate with leaving home, lemony sadness. Maybe. We stood in the doorway a second too long, each of us pretending we were waiting for the other to go first. Eventually, I said, "Guess we should get started." He didn't respond right away, just grabbed the first box, hoisted it onto his shoulder like it weighed nothing, and said, "Let's get it over with." But nothing about that day ever really felt over with. We load the truck in silence. Mostly. It's early enough that the neighborhood's still asleep, which helps. No one watching. No goodbyes to dodge. Just the dull thud of boxes landing in the bed of a beat-up Toyota Tacoma with a dented tailgate and a suspicious rattle I've never had the money to fix. The first box is books mostly mine, some old ones of Mom's that I kept after she left. He hands them over like they're filled with bricks, which, knowing me, they might be. He doesn't say a word about the titles, doesn't ask why I'm bringing poetry books to engineering school. I think he knows I'm not going for engineering anymore, but neither of us brings it up. That's how we've always operated, truths suspended in the space between what's said and what's assumed. I catch him watching me fold up a hoodie I swore I'd burned in 10th grade. It's got a hole in the sleeve, but I keep it. He doesn't ask why. He just says, "You still fold clothes like your mom." It's the first time he's mentioned her in months. I nod, unsure what the right response is. She always said I was the neat one. She said that about me too. We both chuckle. It's the kind of laugh that softens your ribs but doesn't quite reach your eyes. He scratches his jaw, looks off toward the power lines that slice across the sky, and mutters, "You're more like her than you think." I want to say something, maybe thank you. Maybe is that a bad thing, but I just go back to stacking boxes. My throat gets tight, like it's holding a balloon, full of words that don't know where to land. At some point, he picks up a plastic tub filled with kitchen stuff and asks, "You know how to cook anything besides eggs? I make a decent grilled cheese. That's just toast with cheese. Still counts." He smiles at that. One of those brief, sideways grins that makes you feel like maybe you're not a total disappointment. Then, out of nowhere, he says, "You know your uncle tried to talk me out of marrying your mom." I stop mid-lift. No. He said we were too different. Said she wanted jazz, and I was country radio. Said it wouldn't work. And he was right. He doesn't say it with bitterness. More like it's just a fact. Like the weather. Rain Tuesday. Ruined a marriage in 1997. Nothing to do about it now. But you had me, I say. Maybe a little more defensive than I meant. Yeah. And you were the best part. That one lands. No fancy rapping. No speech. Just the truth. Sitting quietly in the bed of a truck next to my boxes of mismatched cutlery and unopened notebooks. I watch him stretch his back and wince. He's not as strong as he used to be, but he still tries to lift like he is. Like aging is a rumor he refuses to believe. I ask if he wants a break. "Let's just finish," he says. If I sit down now, I might stay down. I don't laugh, because I don't think he's joking. We finish loading in under an hour. The truck looks ridiculous, stuffed to the brim with essentials and nonsense. A cactus I haven't watered in months. A blender I borrowed and never returned. 3 different sets of bed sheets, none of them matching. It's a mobile shrine to poor planning. He leans against the side of the truck and wipes sweat from his brow with a shop rag. "You need oil soon," he says. Tapping the hood, I nod. "I'll get to it." He raises an eyebrow like he doesn't believe me. "Just don't let the engine seize. Costs more to fix it than the truck's worth. I won't." A beat. "You sure about this place?" I know he means the apartment, the city, maybe even the life I'm trying to build. "Not really. I admit, that's probably good. Why, if you were sure at 19, you'd be lying to yourself." There it is, again, that strange mix of concern and wisdom he only knows how to express through half-statements and mechanical metaphors. He's like an old instruction manual. Nothing's clear, but if you squint, the pieces start to fit. We stand there for a long time, not talking, just watching the sun come up behind the neighbor's hedge. The sky is watercolor blue with faint orange brushstrokes, like the day is trying to make up for how heavy the night felt. I think about asking him to come with me. Not to stay, just to ride along. Maybe help carry things upstairs. See the new place. Make sure the lock works. But I don't. I know he wouldn't. That's not how we do things. Instead, I say, "You want to drive behind me?" He shakes his head. "You're good. Just text me when you get there." I will. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a folded piece of paper. "Almost forgot? What's this?" "Just something your mom used to keep on the fridge. Figured you might want it." I unfold it. It's a grocery list in her handwriting. Milk, bread, bananas, a little doodle of a heart in the corner. She used to draw those when she was mad. He says, made her feel softer. I think. I tuck it into my glove compartment like it's gold. And for the first time that morning, my chest starts to ache. The drive out of town isn't long. Maybe 40 minutes if the traffic lights behave. But it stretches out like it's trying to last forever. I keep glancing in the rearview mirror, not for cars, but for something else. Maybe just the sight of him standing in the driveway, arms crossed, squinting into the morning sun. But, of course, he's not there anymore. He didn't wave when I left. He never does. We just nodded at each other, like two men finalizing a quiet agreement. The roads are familiar. I pass the old baseball field where he used to take me for batting practice. I was a terrible hitter, always swinging too early. He'd crouch behind the pitching machine with a cooler full of Gatorade and say, "It's timing, not strength." I didn't understand then. Now I think he was talking about more than baseball. The new apartment is on the second floor of a peeling duplex with a driveway full of weeds. The mailbox tilts forward like it's trying to escape. But it's mine. For now. I unload the truck in waves. Each trip up the narrow stairwell, a small punishment for my ambition. The last thing I carry up is the box labeled random junk, which is probably the most honest box of all. I text him once everything's inside, me made it. Alive. Dad told you the brakes would hold. That's his version of glad you're safe. I sit on the floor with my back against the wall, surrounded by my things and a silence that buzzes in the corners. I open the box with the grocery list and prop it on the counter. Just seeing her handwriting there feels like lighting a candle in a cold room. I think about calling him, just to say thanks, just to say something. But instead, I microwave a burrito and eat it off a paper towel. Later that night, the power flickers. Welcome gift from the building, I guess. I light a candle and notice how the shadows stretch tall across the empty walls. That's when I finally let it hit me. This is the first place I've lived where no one else has a key. It should feel empowering. It mostly feels lonely. I remember how, when I was 11, Mom left a post-it on the bathroom mirror before a trip. "You'll do fine. Don't forget to feed the fish." I didn't know she wasn't coming back. I just thought she was being weirdly specific. We didn't have fish. When I told Dad, he didn't say anything, just picked up the post-it, folded it into a tiny square, and tucked it into the drawer with the receipts and takeout menus. We both pretended like nothing had happened. Like it wasn't weird that she packed light and left on a Wednesday. I asked him once. Months later, why she didn't say goodbye. He said, "Maybe she thought it'd be easier for you this way." I said, "Was it?" He just stared at the wall and said, "Wasn't for me." That silence between us, him missing her, but pretending not to. Me noticing, but saying nothing. It became the air we breathed. You could build a whole life out of things you never say. I still have the fishbowl. It's in the back of my closet. Empty. No gravel. No plastic castle. Just dust and a hairline crack. Back in the apartment, I sit there in the flickering candlelight, wondering what else I inherited without realizing. The silence. The way I hold grudges like they're heirlooms, the reluctance to ask for help until it's too late. I hear a knock on the door. I jump because no one should know I'm here yet. It's the landlord, apparently. I park too close to the neighbor's half of the driveway. She says it in that tone that makes it clear she's said this 100 times. I apologize too many times, overcorrecting, just like Dad always does with strangers, polite to a fault. Sharp only behind closed doors. I move the truck, return to the apartment, and stare out the window for a long time. There's a diner across the street. Flickering neon sign that reads, Open 24, no 7, just open 24. It feels fitting. That night, I call no one. I fall asleep on the floor with a hoodie for a pillow. The candle still burning on the counter, next to the list of bananas and milk and bread. The smell of wax reminds me of church, of moments when you don't know what to say, but still want to be heard. I wake up to the sound of footsteps upstairs, slow, deliberate, then suddenly halting, like someone remembered they're not supposed to be stomping. It's a strangely comforting noise, proof that I'm not entirely alone in the world, even if I don't know who's above me. The morning light seeps through the blinds in broken strips, painting the dusty floor like a barcode. I don't scan it. I just lay there for a bit, hoodie still twisted under my neck, arms folded like I'm trying to hold myself in. I remember the first time I saw my dad cry. That's not the kind of thing you forget. It was about 6 months after Mom left. We were at the hardware store. I'd knocked over a display of screws, one of those giant, clattering, domino things that felt like it echoed across the whole county. I was mortified. He rushed over, crouched beside me, started picking up the boxes. I was apologizing a mile a minute. He didn't say anything at first, just kept helping. Then I looked over and saw him blink real fast, like his eyes were trying to shake off a storm. That was the first tear I saw. Just one, tiny. But it was there. He wiped it on his sleeve like it didn't count. Later, in the truck, he said, "You didn't break anything important?" I nodded, still feeling like a walking disaster. Then he added, "Everything important already broke." He never explained what he meant. Didn't have to. This morning, I eat cold cereal out of a mixing bowl because I forgot to unpack dishes. I rinse it in the sink and realize I don't own dish soap or a sponge or, apparently, any of the things that make a person functional. I jot them down on the list Mom started. Dish soap, sponge, dignity. I crossed that last one out. Too dramatic for a Tuesday. Around noon, I get a text from my cousin Mara. "Mara, heard you moved. Congrats, your dad told me." "Me thanks. Yeah, still settling." "Mara, he said he found your baby photo in the glove box. Why was it there me?" "He would I freeze. I remember now. That photo me in footy pajamas, age 3, clutching a stuffed bear that had long since disintegrated. I put it there after graduation, tucked under the registration papers, like a secret backup copy of who I was. I never told him about it. For a guy who claims he's not sentimental, he sure keeps a lot of things in glove compartments. I don't call him, instead. I dig through my own boxes until I find the shoebox I labeled Junk Memories. Inside 3 paper cranes, 1 dry daisy, a receipt from a roller rink, and a note in my handwriting that says, "Tell him before it's too late." I don't remember writing that. Probably a late night, over-caffeinated self-pep talk, the kind you never follow through on. The next day, I go out and buy dish soap, a sponge, and a decent lamp. While checking out, the cashier, maybe 19, chewing gum like it owes him money, asks if I need bags. I say no. Then I say yes. Then I apologize for being indecisive. He shrugs. Happens to all the adults. That hits harder than it should. Back home, I finally hang something on the wall, an old corkboard I used in college. I pin up the grocery list. It's faded now, the ink bleeding at the edges, but still legible. I stare at the word milk like it's a message from the past, from someone who still believed in reminders, who thought planning could fix things. I write a note beneath it, call him, then, immediately, feel queasy and tear it down. I replace it with buy more cereal. Progress. The truth is, I miss him in a way I don't know how to say. Not because he was warm or gentle. He wasn't. But because he showed up. Even if he didn't have the words. Even if he never taught me how to have mine. There's this strange ache in the spaces where conversation should have lived. All the birthdays with phone calls that started with, "Hey, you still alive?" and ended with, "All right." Don't do anything dumb. That was our love language. Mistranslated affection, held together with sarcasm and silence. I sit by the window that night, watching the flickering Open 24 sign blink like it's breathing. I picture him at home, probably watching some woodworking video at a volume far too loud, drinking tea like it's a punishment. I wonder if he's staring at the same moon I am. Wonder if he thinks I'm doing all right. I almost text him, "Thanks for the breaks," but I don't. Instead, I write it down. On the list, right under buy more cereal. Thanks for the breaks, because even if he never says it, I think that's how he loves. Quiet, functional, hidden in the glove box, just in case. I take a walk that evening, no headphones, no destination, just a meandering loop around the block. The kind of walk you take when your apartment feels too loud with silence and you've already opened the fridge 5 times, like it owes you comfort. The air smells like rain on hot pavement, even though it hasn't rained in 2 days. My shoelace keeps untying itself, like my body's trying to remind me that it's still allowed to fall apart in small, harmless ways. There's this little park down the street. Nothing fancy, just a single rusted swing set, a bench with peeling green paint, and one of those tiny metal horses on a spring that nobody seems to know the name of. I sit on the bench, mostly out of habit. I used to come here when I was 13, reading comic books or pretending to study, mostly just avoiding home. That's the thing. Even when things were technically fine at home, I still looked for places to be elsewhere. Not because I hated anyone, just because there was always this hum under the surface. Like we were all tiptoeing around something that had cracked years ago and no one wanted to name it. My dad wasn't violent. He wasn't cruel. He just vanished while staying in the same room. He could build you a bookshelf in silence, fix your bike without asking why it broke, offer a ride to school, and turn the radio up loud enough that no one had to talk. Love, to him, was measured in effort, not expression. But when you're a kid, you don't understand that. You just feel the space, the unspoken, the invisible rules. One time, I think I was 11, I left a note on his nightstand. It said, "Can we talk more?" I didn't sign it. Just hoped he'd know. The next day, he handed me a candy bar and said, "Here, chocolate talks better than I do." And we never mentioned it again. I wish I'd saved that wrapper. Now, sitting on this peeling park bench, I think about that note and the way he dodged it. How that little moment stayed lodged in me like a splinter, not bleeding, just aching when touched. I wonder how many splinters he carried that I never saw. My phone buzzes. It's Mara again. Mara, you okay? I hesitate. Then type, "Me, yeah. Just, doing that thing where you remember stuff you thought you'd forgotten." Mara, the midnight memory montage. She's not wrong. That night, I try to sleep, but the bed feels too big. Not in the luxurious way. In the no one's down the hall anymore kind of way. No footsteps. No clink of mugs. No someone flipping the porch light on and off to check the weather for no reason. I remember the last time he made me tea. It wasn't special, just an ordinary Tuesday. I'd come home from college for a few days. He didn't say I missed you, just handed me a cup and said, "Boil's a little late, tap's being weird." But he put honey in mine. He remembered I don't like sugar. That was his version of a hug, I think. 45-year-old men who can fix pipes, but not feelings, tend to pour their love into cups instead of sentences. Sometimes. I wonder what would have happened if I'd asked him outright, "Do you love me?" Would he have flinched, laughed, changed the subject, said of course, and then ruined it with a dad joke? Or maybe he would have just nodded once and looked away. It's weird, isn't it? The older I get, the more I realize how much of love is just showing up, just staying. Even when the words don't land, there's this quiet understanding between us now unspoken. Of course that we're both trying, in our own stilted ways. When I packed for this apartment, I found a folder in the bottom of my old desk. Inside was a page from one of my 4th grade essays titled "My Hero." It was about my dad. I'd drawn him as a knight with a wrench instead of a sword. I must have shown it to him, because on the back, in clumsy, all caps pencil, "Keep this. You'll laugh someday." I laugh now, but it's soft, more like a breath with humor in it. I never told him I kept it. I should. A few weeks later, I finally visit. Not for any special reason. Just one of those weekends when the city feels too sharp and the noise in your head gets louder than the traffic outside. I bring a tin of loose-leaf tea I know he likes and a loaf of bread from that overpriced bakery near my apartment, the one he used to complain about but secretly liked. His house looks the same. Same creaky porch. Same faded welcome mat that hasn't welcomed anyone new since 2003. But the front yard's a little more overgrown than I remember. Grass curling over the walkway like it's trying to hold him in. He opens the door in an old hoodie with a bleach stain near the pocket. Same one he wore when fixing the sink that Christmas. I clogged it with mashed potatoes. He doesn't smile. Not really. But he does that chin nod thing he's perfected. I nod back, the way soldiers do in war movies. Like, yeah, still alive. Inside. It smells like a mixture of lemon cleaner and bacon grease. His version of air freshener, I guess. The TV's on low volume. Some rerun of a detective show he half watches for the plot and fully watches for the snarky sidekick. We sit, talk about traffic, weather, the neighbor's new dog. It's like conversational yoga, stretching slowly, trying not to pull anything, but it's easy. Somehow, familiar in its awkward rhythm. He pours his tea, no sugar, a drop of honey in mine. After a few sips, I ask, "You still fixing up the garage?" He shrugs, thinking about it. "Your mother's old chair's still in there. That's new. We don't usually talk about her." "Is that where you found the essay?" I ask. Casually, like I haven't rehearsed this in the mirror. He pauses, looks at me. "What essay?" "The one from 4th grade, I say, trying not to sound too hopeful. "My hero?" He blinks, then gets up without a word, disappears into the hallway. I sit there, holding my mug like it might explain things if I stare hard enough. He returns with a plastic folder, one of those cloudy ones with the snap button, hands it to me. Inside my essay, a few report cards, a concert ticket for my high school band recital, a crayon drawing labeled "Dad Superman with Beard." I flip through it slowly, each paper like a breadcrumb, back to a kid I forgot I was. "You kept all this," I say, voice lower than I meant. He shrugs again. Didn't take up much space, but I know better. Keeping something doesn't mean hoarding it. It means honoring it. He doesn't say he's proud, doesn't say "I missed you," but he kept the proof. We don't hug, but he sits down a little closer after that. Our knees almost touch. "I never knew if I got it right," I say, staring at the folder. He sips his tea. Neither did I. and somehow, that's enough. We sit in silence, not the heavy kind, but the kind that fills the room like warm air. I catch him looking at the essay again. He squints at his own pencil scrawl on the back. "Didn't think you'd laugh at that," he says, smirking. I grin. "I didn't?" I wheezed. He chuckles. "It's small, but it stays in the air longer than usual." Later, as I pack up to leave, he hands me the folder. "You sure?" I ask. "Yeah," he says, "just scan it or something. Email's more your thing." I nod, tucking it into my bag. I don't want to scan it. I want to keep the smudges, the staples, the dent in the corner from being shoved in a drawer. But I don't say that. He knows. On the drive back, I catch myself humming something dumb from the radio, but I feel lighter, not healed, not whole, but opened. Maybe. Like a window cracked just enough to let air in. And that night, I dream of being 10 again, sitting at the kitchen table while he fixes the toaster, and me, writing stories in pencil, wondering if he'll read them. Maybe he did. Maybe he always did. Back in my apartment, the folder sits on my coffee table like a polite ghost. I haven't moved it for 3 days. I just look at it sometimes, like it's a guest I'm not sure how to entertain. I think about calling him again. I even pick up the phone once, scroll to his name, Dad home, but I don't press dial. I just stare at it, thumb hovering, until the screen times out. Instead, I clean. That's what I do when something big is moving inside me. I scrub the countertops like they insulted me. I organize the spice rack alphabetically. I even dust the tops of the door frames. Therapy via lemon-scented wipes. At one point, I open the folder again. Take out the essay. It's got a little tear on the bottom. And in the top corner, a doodle of a rocket ship. I remember drawing it during class, trying to imagine launching myself somewhere far away. Now it feels like I'm staring at a younger me that's frozen mid-flight. There's a moment in the essay where I wrote, "My dad doesn't say much, but when he does, it matters." I underline that with a shaky pen, not because it's profound, but because I forgot I ever believed it. That night, I dream again this time. A different memory, not exact, but stitched from real pieces. I'm about 15, it's raining, I'm standing in the garage while he's under the hood of the car. I'm supposed to be helping, but I'm on my phone, texting someone I barely remember now. He asks me to hold the flashlight, and I roll my eyes so hard I practically dislocate something. He says nothing, just keeps working. I drop the flashlight. It clangs. I yell something I don't remember what. Probably some hormonal cocktail of "you never listen and leave me alone." He wipes his hands on a rag and says this part. I remember, it's okay to be angry. Just don't pretend you're not. I never responded. That dream loops for a while, his voice echoing over and over. Just don't pretend you're not. I wake up with that phrase sitting in my mouth like a penny under my tongue. Later that day, I call him, for real this time. He answers with his usual, "Yeah," and I say, "You remember when I dropped the flashlight in the garage?" He laughs, a sharp exhale, which time I laugh. "Too. The one where I shouted something dramatic and you told me it was okay to be angry." There's a pause. "Did I say that?" "Yeah," I say. "You did." I didn't know it stuck. Another pause. Then, well, I probably meant it. I sit on the edge of the kitchen counter, swinging my foot like a teenager. I've been angry for a long time. Dad, I know. And we sit in that truth. Two grown men, separated by years and walls and pride, acknowledging the most obvious elephant in the house. "I'm not angry at you," I say. "Careful now." "I know," he says again. There's something in the way he says it this time, like he's been carrying the other half of my sentence for years, just waiting for me to hand it back. "You want to come by Sunday?" he asks. And I say yes before I even check my calendar. When Sunday comes, he's made chili, his version of gourmet. He even bought cornbread from the supermarket bakery, which is his way of showing off. We eat on paper plates. He insists it's easier. I let it slide. After dinner, he pulls out a photo album, one I haven't seen in years. Inside, yellowed Polaroids and faded snapshots of birthdays, baseball games, Halloween costumes I'd blocked out. And then, tucked in the back, a photo of the garage, empty, clean, sunlight pouring in from the side window. I cleaned it out last year, he says. Didn't know what I was saving it for. I look at him, and I see him not the man I resented, but the man who stayed, who kept my scribbled stories in a plastic folder, who told me it was okay to be angry. I think you were saving it for this, I say. And he nods. We don't say much after that. But as I drive home, I feel something unstick in me, a gear shifting, a door creaking open that's been rusted shut for decades. Not everything has to be said to be felt, and not everything we break has to stay broken. The following week, something strange happens. I start missing him, not in the dramatic, violin playing kind of way, but in small, ridiculous moments. Like when I try to fix the leaky faucet in my kitchen, and I instinctively reach for my phone to ask him what size wrench I need. Or when I'm at the grocery store and see those giant tubs of popcorn he used to buy for movie nights. And I chuckle to myself, because the man insisted it tasted better stale. I keep catching myself about to text him about nothing. Really, just, hey, remember the time we got lost on the way to Aunt Sharon's and you insisted we were exploring? Or, you still have that ugly fishing hat, don't you? That's the part they don't tell you about healing. It sneaks up on you, not with fireworks, but with a phone you almost use. A memory that no longer hurts. A laugh that surprises you. It's like the emotional version of realizing your foot's no longer broken. You just find yourself walking one day, and it doesn't ache. At work, one of my younger colleagues, Jamie, drops by my office to rant about their dad. I nod, I listen, and then I say, don't wait 30 years to say the thing. Trust me. Jamie looks at me like I've cracked some ancient code. I think back to how many people probably looked at me that way, friends, girlfriends, therapists, and I didn't listen. I had my own pacing, I guess, like a reluctant snail inching toward the truth. Later that night, Dad texts me. It's just a photo. A blurry shot of a book I gave him in high school. It's got a coffee ring on the cover and a sticky note inside that says, "From your favorite pain in the butt." I forgot I ever wrote that. I text back, "You still have that?" He replies, "Some things are worth keeping." I sit with that for a while. I start looking at the folder differently, not as evidence of what we missed, but as proof that we were trying, just not at the same time. Maybe, like two dancers always slightly out of rhythm. One evening, I open my laptop and start a new document. I don't even know what I'm writing yet, but I title it "What My Father Kept." I write about the rocket ship, the flashlight, the chili, the silence. I write until my fingers ache. Somewhere in that night, I remember something small, a school project in 4th grade. We had to build a family tree with photos and little bios. I had glued a photo of my dad at the top and wrote under it, "My dad works hard and doesn't like peas. It's stupid." But I tear up at that. He hated peas. Still does. I bring it up the next time I see him, and he laughs so hard he nearly chokes on his coffee. "Peas are just beans trying too hard," he says. And that makes me laugh harder than I should. We talk about nonsense for most of the afternoon. Old neighbors, bad TV, the dog he almost adopted in '97, but didn't. I notice he's walking slower now, his hands a little shakier when he pours tea. He asks about my writing, says he read one of my short stories online, didn't understand the ending, but liked the way I described the rain. "That's all you know." I say, "What is the rain thing? You always noticed weather." He shrugs. "It's just the background." I shake my head. It sets the tone. We fall quiet again. But it's not awkward. There's a kind of peace in silence now, like we've both earned the right not to fill every second. I drive home with a soft smile and half a plan next weekend. I'm taking him to that little cabin upstate, the one he always said he'd go back to someday. I think someday has waited long enough. That weekend upstate turns out better than I thought, mostly because we forget to argue. It's a small wooden cabin and near a lake that neither of us remembers the name of. No Wi-Fi, no cell reception, just trees that breathe louder than we do, and a porch that creaks like it's trying to whisper family secrets. The place hasn't changed much since the last time we came here, when I was maybe 12, maybe 13, back then. I spent the whole trip sulking because he wouldn't let me bring my Game Boy. Now I'm sulking because I forgot bug spray. We settle in quickly. Dad claims the recliner like it's a throne and starts reading an old spy novel he finds on the bookshelf. I start a fire and realize I have no idea how he made this look so easy when I was a kid. He watches me fail 3 times before getting up, no words. Just one of his quiet, "Let me looks," and builds a perfect flame in under 2 minutes. I offer to knight him with the fire poker. He declines. We sit on the porch after dinner, nursing mugs of instant coffee. It's cold, too cold for spring. But we don't go inside. I tell him a story I've never told him before, about the time I almost quit writing. He tells me a story I've never heard about a panic attack he had before my high school graduation. I always thought he was just quiet that day. Turns out, he almost didn't come. We talk about death, a little, about memory, about how weird it is to carry so much of someone inside your head, even when you barely speak. He says, "You know, I think I was afraid you'd turn out like me." I laugh. I did turn out like you. He looks at me like I just handed him a piece of himself he didn't know was missing. Then he nods. "Yeah, but better. That one sticks." We fall asleep early, both of us reading by weak flashlight light. He's snoring before I even finish a page. And in the morning, I wake up to the sound of bacon in a pan. My father, humming off-key to himself, still using way too much butter. The cabin smells like childhood and cholesterol. I don't even care. He slides me a plate and says, "Don't say I never cooked for you." I smirk. "You boiled hot dogs once." "Twice," he says. And we both laugh, standing there with paper plates and messy hair, like time folded in on itself. Before we leave, we take a photo on the porch. I don't post it. It's just for us. In the car ride back, I ask if he wants to do this again sometime. He says yes without looking up from his crossword, as if it were obvious. When I drop him off, he pulls me into a hug that's longer than usual. He smells like campfire and peppermint. He says, "I'm proud of you," I say. "You're not so bad yourself." There's a pause. Then he smiles. "Coming from you. That's practically poetry." I drive home with the windows down. A little cold, a little raw, but light. Later that night, I open that folder again, the one filled with all those false starts. I rename it Letters I Finally Wrote. I delete nothing, but I add one more. It's short. It just says, "Thanks for sticking around." The nights are quieter now. Not because anything dramatic has changed. Not because everything's been said, or solved, or healed, but because I've stopped yelling in my head. That old low static of should-haves and why didn'ts, it doesn't run the same loop anymore. It flickers now and then, but mostly, it dims. I still don't call him every week. We're not suddenly best friends. But when I do call, I don't rehearse what to say beforehand. And when I hang up, I don't feel hollow. There are still long silences, but they're not loaded anymore. They're just quiet, and sometimes quiet is enough. I keep that photo of us on the porch inside a book of mine, page 43 of a paperback I know he never finished. Every now and then, I flip it open just to check if the moment still feels real. It does. It's strange how memory shifts once you stop fighting it. Once you stop trying to fix or frame it. Once you let people be who they were, not who you needed them to be. Forgiveness isn't this big, noble act. Sometimes it's just choosing not to reopen the same wound every morning. So, to anyone listening, if there's someone you miss, but don't want to admit it, someone who hurt you, but maybe didn't mean to, someone you still carry around like an old receipt, you don't have to know what to say. Just start with something. Even if it's clumsy, even if it's too late. Because time doesn't ask for perfect. It just asks for now. So maybe send the text. Take the drive. Or knock on the door, if it's still yours to knock on. And if it's not, at least write the letter. Good night, friends.